After spending 48 hours in the ICU recovering from a fall at work, I called home expecting concern, only to hear my wife laugh and say, "I don't miss him or the mess he leaves." She hung up and blocked my number. Now, 2 months later, I filed for divorce, and she's begging me to reconcile. I, 35M, have been married to my wife, 33F, for 7 years. What I thought was a solid marriage crashed down around me after a workplace accident last fall. I work in construction, specifically commercial electrical work. Been doing it for over a decade, and helped pay for the down payment on our house with my steady income. My wife works in marketing, makes decent money too, but my job has always been the more reliable one. Last October, I was up on a scissor lift installing lighting fixtures when the damn thing malfunctioned. I fell about 15 feet onto concrete. Broke my arm in 2 places, fractured 3 ribs, and had a concussion that still gives me headaches sometimes. Could have been worse, I guess. I don't actually remember much about the first day. Just flashes. Pain. Ceiling tiles. Someone saying BP's dropping. Then I woke up in the ICU, groggy as hell from the pain meds. The doctor told me I needed surgery on my arm, metal plate and screws, and they'd been monitoring me for internal bleeding. When I was finally coherent enough to understand what was going on, I asked the nurse if my wife knew I was here. She gave me this look, not quite pity, something worse, and said, "We called her when you were admitted yesterday. And again this morning." I tried calling her from a hospital phone, but it went straight to voicemail. An hour later, tried again. Nothing. By evening, I managed to get a nurse to grab my cell from my personal belongings. Screen was shattered, but still worked. Called again. Voicemail. At this point, I was starting to freak out. What if something had happened to her too? So I called our neighbor, this older woman who lives next door and has our spare key. Asked her to please check if my wife was okay. "Oh, honey," she said, "I saw her leaving for work this morning. Seemed fine to me. Even waved hello." That hit me like a second fall. She knew I was hurt and just didn't come? Didn't call? I was confused, angry, hurt, all the things you'd expect. But I figured there had to be an explanation. Maybe the hospital called the wrong number. Maybe there was some misunderstanding. I decided to try one last time. I asked a nurse if I could use her cell to call my wife, making up some BS about my phone being dead. The nurse, Jen, according to her badge, seemed to understand something deeper was going on and handed over her iPhone without questions. My wife picked up on the second ring. "Hello." She sounded totally normal. Not worried, not rushed. Just normal. "Hey, it's me," I said, my voice raspier than usual from the breathing tube they had down my throat during surgery. "I'm using a nurse's phone." There was a pause. Then I heard her say to someone else in the room, "It's just him. He's calling from a hospital again." I heard laughter in the background. Multiple people. Then my wife said, not even bothering to move away from the phone, "I don't miss him or the mess he leaves. Always dropping his shit everywhere." More laughter. My ears started ringing. "I can't hear you," I said. Another pause. Then, "Oh." And she hung up. I tried calling back immediately, but she didn't pick up. I handed the phone back to Jen, who was checking my phone. Must have looked pretty bad, because she asked if I needed anything. I just shook my head. "Family stuff?" she asked. "Yeah, something like that." I spent another 3 days in the hospital. Moved from ICU to regular room. No visits from my wife. No calls. Nothing. One of my coworkers stopped by with a card everyone had signed. My boss called to check in. But nothing from the person who was supposed to care the most. I called my brother, who lives about 2 hours away. He dropped everything and drove down to get me when I was finally discharged. The doctor wasn't thrilled about me leaving without someone to help at home, but my brother promised he'd stay with me. Getting dressed was a nightmare. Couldn't lift my right arm above shoulder level because of the surgery, and every movement sent pain shooting through my ribs. Just putting on a t-shirt had me sweating and dizzy. When we pulled up to my house, my wife's car wasn't in the driveway. Using my key was another struggle. Had to use my left hand awkwardly. The second we opened the door, I smelled cigarettes. My wife doesn't smoke. We never allow smoking in our house. There were wine glasses on the coffee table. Multiple glasses. And an ashtray. "What the hell?" my brother muttered. I hobbled to our bedroom, each step sending pain through my side. On her nightstand was a bottle of men's cologne. Not mine. Her closet door was open, half the clothes gone. Looked like she'd packed in a hurry. My brother helped me grab some clothes and toiletries. That's all I could manage. Even with the painkillers, I was hurting bad. We left and went to his place about 30 minutes away. That night, while I was doped up on Percocet trying to find a position that didn't make my ribs scream, I got a text from my wife. "Where are you? Your car's gone." I stared at it for a long time. Didn't respond. 3 more texts followed over the next couple hours. "Hello? Are you coming home? The doctor said you were being discharged today. Can you at least let me know you're okay?" That last one made me laugh, which was a mistake because it hurt like hell. Now she was concerned if I was okay? For the next few days, I was in too much pain to do much of anything. My brother took time off work to help me with basic stuff I couldn't do one-handed. Showering, cooking, even putting on pants was a challenge. Sleeping was the worst. Couldn't lie flat because of my ribs, couldn't lie on my side because of my arm. Just sat propped up with pillows, drifting in and out. Meanwhile, my wife's texts got increasingly annoyed, then concerned when I didn't answer. "Are you seriously ignoring me? I'm getting worried. Did something happen? Your brother isn't answering my calls either." I couldn't deal with it. My head was still fuzzy from the concussion and meds. So I just turned off notifications. About a week after getting discharged, when I could finally move without wanting to scream, my brother drove me to see a lawyer. Wasn't planning to make any big decisions yet, but I needed to understand my options. I showed the lawyer the text history and explained about finding the cologne and glasses. "It's circumstantial," he said, "but concerning. How long have you been married?" 7 years next month, I said. "Together for 9. Any kids? Joint property?" "No kids. We own a house together, but I put down most of the down payment from an inheritance. Both our names are on the mortgage, though." He made some notes. "That'll be important if things go that direction." While we were talking, my wife called. The lawyer raised his eyebrows. "Might be worth answering with me here," he said. "Up to you, though." I took a deep breath and answered, putting it on speaker. "Hello." My voice sounded tired, even to me. "Where the hell are you?" She sounded pissed, not worried. "It's been a week." "At my brother's," I said. "Still recovering." "Why didn't you come home?" I was worried sick. I let out a humorless laugh that sent pain through my ribs. "Were you? That's not what it sounded like when I called you from the hospital." "What are you talking about?" She was doing that thing where she pretends to be confused when caught. "I heard you," I said, "on the nurse's phone, telling whoever was there that you don't miss me. Laughing about it while I was in the ICU with broken bones." Silence for a moment. Then, "Oh God, you heard that?" "I can explain. It was just friends over for drinks. We were joking around. You know how stupid I sound sometimes when I'm drinking. Friends who smoke in our house, who leave cologne in our bedroom." Another silence, longer this time. "I can explain everything," she finally said, her voice softer. "Just come home. You're hurt. You need someone to take care of you. Like you did when I was in the hospital for 4 days." The words came out harsher than I intended. "You didn't even call to check if I was alive or dead." I was dealing with a lot. I got scared when they called. I didn't know what to do. The lawyer was watching me carefully, taking notes. "I'm staying at my brother's," I said. "I need time to think." "Don't be stupid," she snapped, her tone changing completely. "You can barely dress yourself with that arm. Just come home, and we'll sort this out." "I'll pass," I said and hung up. I stared at the phone for a minute, then blocked her number. My hands were shaking. The lawyer leaned back in his chair. "Based on what I just heard and what you've told me, I'd recommend taking some time to think, but also start gathering evidence just in case." I spent the next couple weeks at my brother's, focusing on healing. My wife switched to email when she realized I'd blocked her number. Her messages ranged from angry, "How dare you ignore me?" to manipulative, "Everyone thinks you're having some kind of breakdown," to pleading, "Please just talk to me." According to her, I was overreacting to one stupid joke and being childish and making her look bad to friends and family. What she didn't know was that I hadn't told anyone except my brother what had happened. Not yet. I'll update if anything changes. Right now, I'm focused on healing my body while trying to figure out how to deal with the wreckage of what I thought was a happy marriage. Update 1, 3 weeks later. Thanks for all the support on my last post. When you're going through something like this, you start to question your own sanity. Your comments helped me realize I wasn't overreacting. It's been about 3 weeks since the accident. My arm is still in a cast and hurts like hell when the meds wear off. Ribs are slowly healing, but still make everything from laughing to sneezing torture. I've been staying at my brother's place, sleeping on his pull-out couch because I can't manage stairs to the guest room yet. After the second week, I realized I needed more of my stuff. Clothes that would fit over my cast, my laptop for work emails, and most importantly, important documents. My brother took a day off to drive me to the house. We timed it for when my wife would normally be at work. I still couldn't drive, and honestly wasn't steady enough to go alone anyway. As soon as we opened the door, it was obvious the house had been party central. Empty wine bottles on every surface. Overflowing ashtray on the coffee table. Takeout containers stacked in the sink. It smelled like stale beer and cigarettes. Jesus, my brother muttered. Did she have the whole neighborhood over? I shook my head, wincing at the movement. Just grab the stuff on the list, okay? I need to check something. I struggled up the stairs to our bedroom. It was worse up there. Bed unmade. Clothes, men's clothes that definitely weren't mine, scattered across the floor. And on my nightstand, bizarrely, a receipt from Fleming's Steakhouse for dinner for two, dated the night after my accident. $214.37. While I was in and out of consciousness in the ICU, my wife was dropping over $200 on steak and wine. I took pictures of everything with my phone. Not easy one-handed, but I managed. Then I started gathering what I came for: birth certificate from a filing cabinet, passport from the desk drawer, external hard drive with our financial records. My grandmother's ring that had been in my family for generations. Just the irreplaceable stuff. My brother was helping me pack some clothes when we heard the front door open. My wife walked in, dressed for work, but obviously not there. She froze when she saw us, eyes going wide, then quickly narrowing. "What the hell are you doing here?" she demanded, dropping her purse on the entryway table. I gestured awkwardly with my casted arm. "Getting my things." She stepped toward us, arms crossed. "You can't just disappear for weeks, ignore all my calls and messages, then show up and take stuff." My brother moved slightly between us. "He's just getting his personal belongings and documents." "We need to talk about this," she insisted, her voice rising. "You've been ignoring me for weeks. Everyone keeps asking where you are. What happened?" I was suddenly exhausted. The pain meds were wearing off, and every part of me hurt. "Like you ignored me when I was in the hospital for 4 days." "That's not," she started, then switched tactics. "I was dealing with a lot. You have no idea what it was like getting that call." "Yeah, must have been terrible," I said, nodding toward the kitchen. "Is that why you went out for a $200 dinner the night after my accident? To cope with the stress?" Her face changed, the fake indignation dropping away, replaced with something closer to panic. "Who was here?" I asked, gesturing at the evidence of partying throughout our house. "Just friends," she mumbled, not meeting my eyes. "Friends who leave their clothes in our bedroom." I pressed, voice rising despite my best efforts. "Friends whose cologne is on your nightstand." She stared at the floor for a moment, then looked up with tears starting. Not the angry kind, the manipulative kind I'd seen before when she wanted something. "I messed up, okay?" Her voice cracked. "When they called about your accident, I freaked out. I thought you were dying. I called Paul from work because I didn't know what to do, and he came over to help, and I was drinking because I was scared, and—" She trailed off, wiping her eyes. "It just happened." "It just happened," I repeated, my ribs aching from standing too long. "While I was in surgery getting a metal plate put in my arm, you just happened to hook up with some guy from your office?" "It wasn't like that," she protested, stepping closer. "Please, can we talk about this? Really talk. I love you. I made a terrible mistake." She reached for my good arm, but I stepped back, almost losing my balance. My brother steadied me. "I think we should go," he said quietly. "I need more time," I told her, breathing heavily from exertion and emotion. "I'll email you when I'm ready to talk." She followed us to the door. "Wait, what am I supposed to tell everyone? People keep asking where you are, if you're okay." I paused at the doorway, genuinely confused. "Tell them the truth. That I was in the hospital for 4 days with broken bones, and you were too busy with your friend to visit even once." The drive back to my brother's was silent. I was in too much pain, physical and emotional, to talk. That night, after taking my meds and finally getting somewhat comfortable on the couch, my phone started blowing up with emails. "Please come home. We can work through this." "I'm so sorry. I totally panicked when they called about your accident. It was one mistake in 7 years of marriage. Doesn't that count for anything?" Then came texts to my brother's phone, which he showed me the next morning. Not just from my wife, but from her friends too. Apparently she'd given them his number. They were all saying I needed to man up and work on my marriage instead of running away from problems. I didn't respond to any of it. Honestly, didn't have the energy. A week later, when I could finally move without wanting to curl up and die, I went back to work on modified duty, desk work only, for hours a day, as per doctor's orders. Everything was exhausting. Just getting dressed and driving to the office, my brother had returned to his own job by then, left me wiped out. First day back, my supervisor Dave pulled me aside. "Your wife's been calling," he said awkwardly. "Like a lot. Wanted to know when you'd be back, your schedule, stuff like that." I sighed. "Sorry about that. We're going through some personal issues." Dave nodded. "None of my business, but if you need anything, more time off, flexible hours, just let me know." "Actually," I said, "if she calls again, could you have her directed to HR? I'd rather keep this separate from work." He looked relieved. "Yeah, sure. No problem." That weekend, my wife showed up at my brother's apartment unannounced. I was alone. He'd gone to get groceries. I saw her car pull up through the window and immediately felt my heart rate spike. I wasn't ready for this. She pounded on the door for what felt like forever. I could hear her crying, calling my name. Part of me wanted to open it, to get it over with. But a bigger part couldn't face her yet. My breathing got faster, my ribs protesting movement. I sat in the living room, lights off, waiting for her to leave. She slipped an envelope under the door eventually. Inside was a handwritten letter. "I know I messed up horribly. I've never been so scared or ashamed in my life. The night of your accident, I completely fell apart. Please give me a chance to explain in person. I love you. I miss you. I'm so sorry." I folded the letter and put it back in the envelope, hands shaking slightly. When my brother got home and found out what happened, he was pissed. "She can't just show up here," he said. "That's crossing a line." A few days later, after talking with a lawyer again, I filed for legal separation. Not divorce yet, that felt too final while I was still processing everything, but a formal separation that would protect my finances and give me time to think. My wife's reaction was immediate and public. Suddenly, her social media was full of vague posts about standing strong during life's storms and how people show their true colors when things get tough. She shared articles about forgiveness and working through marriage difficulties. The irony wasn't lost on me. I hadn't posted anything online about what happened. What she didn't expect was that a couple of our closer friends reached out to check on me. Jim and his wife Sarah took me to dinner, carefully asking what was going on. I didn't want to trash talk my wife, but I also needed someone besides my brother to know the truth. "I had a serious accident at work," I said. "Broke my arm badly enough to need surgery, plus ribs, concussion. Was in the hospital for 4 days." Sarah looked confused. "But your wife made it sound like it was just a minor thing. A sprained wrist or something." I showed them the still-healing surgical scar that ran from my elbow halfway up my arm. Their eyes widened. "She never visited," I said simply. "Not once. When I called from a hospital, I overheard her laughing about not missing me." Jim looked stunned. "Dude, I don't even know what to say." I shrugged, immediately regretting the movement, as pain shot through my side. Then I found evidence she'd had someone over while I was hospitalized. A co-worker. I didn't go into more detail. Didn't need to. Over the next couple weeks, I learned that Jim and Sarah had shared the real story with others in our friend group. Not in a gossipy way, but just the facts. Several people reached out with support. Even my mother-in-law called me, confused about what she'd been told versus what she was now hearing. "She told us you'd had a minor fall and were being dramatic about it," she said. "That you'd walked out on her for no reason." I didn't want to drive a wedge between my wife and her family, so I kept it simple. I was in the ICU, then hospital for 4 days. She never visited. I've needed help with basic tasks since then because of my injuries. The silence on the other end was telling. About a month after the accident, my wife's approach changed. The angry emails stopped. Instead, she sent a message saying she'd started therapy, was working on her issues, and wanted another chance to talk when I was ready. I still wasn't ready. The physical pain was slowly improving. I'd started physical therapy for my arm, but emotionally, I was still raw. Every time I thought about possibly talking to her, I'd remember her voice saying she didn't miss me, and the sick feeling would come rushing back. I needed more time. Update 2, 1 month later. It's been a month since my last update, and almost 2 months since the accident that changed everything. Thank you all for your continued support and advice. It's helped more than you know. After the temporary separation papers were delivered, my wife's behavior became increasingly erratic. She vacillated between angry accusations, "You're just trying to punish me," and desperate pleas, "I'll do anything to fix this." She showed up at my workplace twice, causing such a scene the second time that security had to escort her out. My supervisor was understanding but suggested I take another week off until things calmed down. During this time, I stayed at my brother's and focused on healing. My arm is much better now, the cast is off, though I still have some physical therapy to do. My ribs have healed, and the concussion symptoms are gone. Physically, I'm recovering well. Emotionally, that's more complicated. 3 weeks ago, I finally agreed to meet my wife in a public place, a coffee shop near my brother's house. I figured we needed to talk face-to-face at least once before I made any final decisions. She was already there when I arrived, looking like she hadn't slept in days. As soon as I sat down, she reached for my hands across the table. I kept mine firmly around my coffee cup. "Thank you for meeting me," she said. "I've been so worried about you." I just nodded, waiting. "I know I made a terrible mistake," she continued. "But was just that, one mistake in 7 years. Doesn't that count for something?" "It wasn't just one mistake," I replied calmly. "It was a series of choices. You chose not to come to the hospital when you were informed I was in the ICU. You chose to go out to dinner with someone else that night instead. You chose to bring that person to our house. You chose to ignore my calls. You chose to laugh about not missing me while I was seriously injured." She flinched with each you chose, but then rallied. "I panic, okay? When they called about your accident, I just froze. I didn't know what to do." "Most people would go to the hospital," I pointed out. "I was scared. I hate hospitals. You know that." "So scared that you went out to a $200 dinner instead?" She looked down at the table. I wasn't thinking clearly. "And the man at our house? The one who left his cologne and clothes behind? Were you not thinking clearly for those 3 days too?" Her face crumpled. "It was a mistake. A stupid, horrible mistake. He's just a coworker. It didn't mean anything." "It meant something to me," I said quietly. "It meant that when I was at my most vulnerable, you weren't there. Worse, you were with someone else, laughing about not missing me." She started crying then, not the manipulative tears from before, but real, ugly sobbing. People at nearby tables were starting to stare. "I'll do anything," she whispered. "Anything to fix this. We can go to counseling. I've already started therapy on my own. I'll quit my job so I never have to see him again. Please, just give me another chance." I took a deep breath. "Here's what I need right now. I need you to respect my boundaries. No more showing up at my workplace. No more ambushing me at my brother's. No more having your friends text me. Just email, and only about practical matters while we sort things out legally." "Legally?" Her voice rose. "So you're really going through with the divorce?" "I'm considering all my options," I said carefully. "But yes, divorce is looking likely." She became angry then, the tears stopping abruptly. "After 7 years, you're throwing everything away over one mistake. You're not even trying to work it out." "I am trying," I said, standing up. "I'm trying to respect myself enough not to stay with someone who couldn't be bothered to visit me in the ICU because she was too busy with her co-worker." I left her sitting there and walked out, feeling surprisingly calm. The next day, I received a long email from her. She apologized for her behavior at the coffee shop and said she understood why I was hurt. She claimed she'd ended things with a coworker immediately after I found out and was committed to rebuilding trust if I'd give her the chance. She attached screenshots of her therapy appointments as proof she was working on herself. I didn't respond. A week later, I met with my lawyer again and decided to file for divorce. The papers were delivered to her the following day. That's when things really exploded. She called my brother's house 17 times in one night. She sent 34 emails in 2 days. She posted a long, tearful video on social media about how people give up too easily on marriage nowadays and how she was fighting for love even when it's hard. Again, the irony. Then she tried a new approach. She contacted my parents, who live out of state, and didn't know the full story. She told them I was having some kind of breakdown after my accident and needed an intervention. My mom called me concerned. I calmly explained everything to my parents, including showing them the same evidence I'd shown our friends. My mom was silent for a long time, then said, "I raised you to stand up for yourself. If this is what standing up looks like, then I'm proud of you." That meant more than she could know. Yesterday, I finally returned to our house, my house now, as I'm the one who made the down payment and most of the mortgage payments. My lawyer advised me that I had every right to live there during the divorce proceedings, and it would actually strengthen my claim to the property. I had my brother and 2 friends come with me just in case. My wife wasn't there when we arrived. The house was cleaner than before, with all signs of her visitor removed. There was a note on the kitchen table. I'm staying with my sister for a while. I've left most things as they were. Please reconsider the divorce. I love you. I made a terrible mistake, but we can get past this. I crumpled the note and threw it away. Then I changed all the locks. 3 hours later, she showed up, trying to use her key. When it didn't work, she rang the doorbell repeatedly, then started pounding on the door. I didn't answer. Eventually, she left, only to email me immediately. You changed the locks? That's my house too. You can't keep me out. My lawyer had prepared me for this. I responded with a single line. Please direct all communication to my attorney from now on. That was yesterday. Today, I woke up in my own bed for the first time in almost 2 months. It felt strange but right. I'm taking things one day at a time, focusing on finishing my physical therapy and healing emotionally. The divorce proceedings are moving forward. My wife is now begging for couples counseling instead of divorce, but I've made my decision. Some betrayals can't be undone, and being abandoned during a medical emergency and laughed about is one of them. I'll post a final update once the divorce is finalized. Thank you all for your support through this difficult time. Final update, 2 months later. It's been 2 months since my last update and 4 months since the accident that revealed who my wife really was. I wanted to wait until things were truly settled before posting this final update. The divorce was finalized last week. It was faster than expected because ultimately, my wife didn't contest it. After her initial flurry of resistance and emotional manipulation, she eventually accepted that the marriage was over. The turning point came about a month after my last update. She showed up at the house again, this time with her sister. I almost didn't answer but decided it might be better to have this conversation with her sister present as a witness. When I opened the door, my wife immediately launched into her usual speech about forgiveness and second chances. I let her finish, then simply said, if the situation were reversed, if you had been the one in the ICU and I had ignored you to spend time with another woman, would you take me back? She started to respond automatically, of course I would, because marriage is about forgiveness. Her sister interrupted. No, you wouldn't. You'd have destroyed him. Then she turned to me. She's been lying to everyone about what really happened. I only got the full story last week from your friend Marcus. My wife looked betrayed. You're supposed to be on my side. I'm on the side of truth, her sister replied. And the truth is, what you did was unforgivable. That was the last real attempt my wife made to reconcile. After that, she focused on trying to get as much as possible in the divorce. But since we live in an at-fault state and I had considerable evidence of her infidelity, plus the fact that I'd paid the down payment and most of the mortgage, the settlement was largely in my favor. She got some of the furniture and a small amount of cash to help her relocate. I kept the house and most of our assets. Her parting shot was an email saying I would regret this decision and would die alone because no one would put up with my unforgiving nature. I didn't respond. In the months since the accident, I've learned a lot about myself and about the people in my life. Some friends disappeared, taking her side, or just not wanting to be involved in the drama. Others stepped up in ways I never expected. My brother, especially, has been my rock throughout this whole ordeal. I've also learned that I'm stronger than I thought. For months ago, lying in that hospital bed and hearing my wife laugh about not missing me, I felt like my world was ending. Now, I realize it was just changing. Physically, I'm fully recovered. The physical therapy for my arm is complete, and I'm back to normal activities. I've even started working out again, something I let slide during the last few years of my marriage. Emotionally, I'm still healing but making progress. I've been seeing a therapist who specializes in betrayal trauma, and it's been incredibly helpful. One thing she told me that really resonated was that my wife's behavior during my accident wasn't an anomaly or a mistake, it was a revelation of character. Work has been going well. I got a small promotion last month, partly because of how I handled some difficult projects while dealing with all this personal turmoil. My boss specifically mentioned my professionalism during the times my wife showed up at the office. As for my ex-wife, I hear from mutual friends that she's moved to a different city and is focusing on herself. One of her friends recently reached out to say my ex is telling people I was emotionally abusive, and that's why she cheated. I just shrugged and said, the people who matter know the truth. And they do. My family, my real friends, even her own sister, they all know what actually happened. Last week, after the divorce was finalized, I had a small gathering at my house, just close friends and family, good food, and better conversation. As I looked around at these people who had supported me through the darkest time in my life, I realized something important. I wasn't just surviving this betrayal, I was growing beyond it. There's a strange gratitude I feel now for that accident. As painful as it was physically, it revealed a truth that might have otherwise taken years to discover. It showed me who really had my back when I was at my most vulnerable. Yesterday, I finally deleted all the evidence I'd collected, the photos, the text logs, the receipts. I don't need them anymore. The divorce is final, the truth is known, and I'm ready to move forward. I don't know what the future holds, but for the first time in months, I'm actually excited to find out. And that, more than anything, feels like the real victory. Thank you all for your support throughout this journey. It's meant more than you know. After my fiancée stole my identity and drained my accounts, I lost everything. She moved out laughing. Good luck proving it was me. I spent 2 months building a case. Yesterday, her mother called me crying. Please drop the charges. She'll get 10 years. I simply replied, she should have thought about that before taking everything I had. I, 32M, still can't believe this is my life now. 6 months ago, I had a fiancé, savings, and plans. Now I've got debt collectors calling daily, and a court case that's consuming my every waking hour. My fiancé and I were together for 3 years, engaged for the last 8 months. We were supposed to get married next spring. Looking back, I missed so many red flags. She'd get defensive when I looked in her direction while she was on her phone. She borrowed my laptop constantly. She'd ask weird questions about my accounts, security questions, password reset emails, stuff I didn't think twice about at the time. The night it all blew up, I was at dinner with friends. My card declined. Embarrassing, but whatever. Probably just forgot to transfer money. Tried my other card. Declined too. Checked my banking app under the table, and felt like I'd been punched in the gut. Accounts drained. Both of them. $37,461 gone. Called my fiancé. No answer. Called again. Voicemail. Had this sick feeling in my stomach as I drove home. Half her stuff was gone. Found a note. It wasn't working out. Sorry. That's it. Nothing about the fucking money. Spent that night in complete panic mode. Called banks. Checked accounts. Ran credit reports. Shit kept getting worse by the minute. Not just my accounts emptied. She'd opened 5 credit cards in my name, maxed out at like $47,350. 2 personal loans totaling $35,000. And a car loan for $42,000. When I finally reached her the next day, she wasn't even trying to hide it. Yeah, I took some money. You always said what's yours is mine. Then she fucking laughed and said, good luck proving the rest was me. I asked where my money went. She just said places. Don't bother looking for it. And then twisted the knife. I needed a fresh start. You were too boring anyway. She came with her brother the next morning to get the rest of her stuff. I confronted her again, and she just smirked. Good luck proving it was me. I know exactly how to cover my tracks. I didn't yell. Didn't beg. Just watched them load the car. Something in me just switched off. Or maybe switched on. I closed the door and started making calls. Police first. Filed identity theft and fraud reports. Then lawyers. Then every bank and credit card company. The police weren't exactly giving me confidence. These cases are complicated, they kept saying. Especially between couples. Hard to prove criminal intent. So I decided to prove it. All of it. Took a week of PTO and started working full-time on building a case. Spent another 5 weeks spending every evening and weekend on it while working my normal job during the day. My boss was surprisingly cool about my situation and let me take longer lunches for phone calls with banks and lawyers. I documented everything. Got security footage from our apartment building showing her leaving with boxes on the days of the transfers. Retrieved deleted browser history from my laptop. She wasn't nearly as tech-savvy as she thought. Found email confirmations for cards and loans in my trash folder. Got screenshots of texts between her and her friend where she literally called to her escape plan. Discovered my password saved in a folder on her cloud account that synced to our shared tablet. She'd been planning this for months. Making small withdrawals testing passwords, intercepting my financial emails. The more I dug, the more evidence I found, and the more pissed off I got. Meanwhile, my financial situation was a nightmare. Had to crash on my friend's couch because I couldn't make rent. Credit score tanked from 780 to 490. Lived on ramen and whatever my buddy cooked. Applied for victim status with credit agencies to dispute all the fake accounts, but that shit takes forever. Banks froze my remaining accounts during the fraud investigation, so I couldn't even access the little money I had left. After almost 3 months of this, the detective finally called. They were pressing charges, multiple felony counts. Identity theft, fraud, grand larceny. The DA was confident with the evidence we'd compiled. That night, my fiancé's mother called me crying. Please drop the charges. She made a mistake. She'll get 10 years in prison. She's my only daughter. I just said she should have thought about that before taking everything I had. Her mother went ballistic. She was just taking what she deserved. You always controlled the money. Total bullshit. She made her own money, and I never monitored her spending. I hung up and blocked her. Then my fiancé called from some random number, suddenly all sweet and scared. Babe, we can work this out. I'll pay you back. I was going through something. Please don't do this. I recorded that call too. More evidence. The arraignment is set for next month. My lawyer says it's unusually clear-cut for domestic identity theft. Whatever that means. I'm still on my friend's couch. Still rebuilding. Still have days where I can't believe this is my life. But I'm going to see this through. Not just for the money, but because fuck her for thinking she could get away with this. We'll update after the arraignment. Update 1. It's been almost 6 weeks since my last post. Haven't updated sooner because 1, this shit is exhausting, and 2, my lawyer advised me to be careful about what I share online until after the case is resolved. But I need to vent, and you guys were supportive last time. After posting here, I got a bunch of DMs asking if my ex had done this before. Hadn't even occurred to me to check. Tracked down her ex before me. We'd met at a couple social things. Dude was weird about talking at first, but eventually told me she'd cleaned out their joint account when they broke up, around $8,000. He never went after her legally because it seemed like more trouble than it was worth with lawyers and everything. Passed this info to the detective. They added it to the case file. Meanwhile, my ex's family has gone full psycho with the harassment. Her mom created like 6 different social media accounts to message my friends about what a vengeful monster I am. Her dad showed up at my job, and security had to remove him. My buddy's girlfriend got a message from my ex's cousin calling me a pathetic loser who's just mad he got dumped. Last week, I got served with papers. My ex is suing me for defamation. Claims I'm ruining her reputation with false accusations. My lawyer literally snorted when I called him about it. Said it's a desperate attempt to scare me into dropping the criminal charges and will probably get thrown out in the first hearing. The financial hell continues. Had a job interview rescinded when they ran a credit check. Finally got access to my checking account again, but it's got like $230 in it. My friend's still letting me crash, but his girlfriend is clearly getting tired of the arrangement. Can't blame her. Some minor wins. Got approved for a secured credit card with a $300 limit. One of the credit card companies removed the fraudulent account from my report. Found a weekend gig doing inventory at a warehouse that pays cash daily. The criminal case keeps getting bigger. The prosecutor discovered my ex used my identity for a business loan of $75,000 that I didn't even know about. They've frozen some accounts where she transferred money, but a lot of it is just gone, spent or hidden. The weirdest part. Ran into her at the grocery store last week. I was buying ramen and peanut butter, the diet of champions when you're broke. She looked like hell, unwashed hair, baggy clothes. When she saw me, she started crying right there by the cereal aisle. I didn't think it would go this far, she said, like she's the victim here. I just wanted to start over. You can stop this if you want to. I just shook my head and tried to walk away. I'll tell them you knew, she called after me. That you gave me permission for everything. That's when I turned back and said, that's why I recorded our last call where you admitted taking everything. And every call since. Should have taken a picture of her face. She looked like she'd seen a ghost. Court date's been pushed back twice now. Currently scheduled for next month. The prosecutor says this is normal, but it's killing me. Just want this over with, so I can start piecing my life back together. Still sleeping on a couch. Still eating like a college freshman. Still having nightmares about checking my bank balance. We'll update when there's real news. Update 2. Court didn't go how I expected at all. I'd prepared myself for this big dramatic showdown, testimony, evidence presentation, the whole deal. My lawyer had me practice answering questions for hours. I barely slept the night before. Then we get there, and immediately my ex's attorney asks for a meeting with the prosecutor. They disappear for like 40 minutes while I sit there feeling like I'm gonna throw up. Turns out, she wanted to plead guilty to reduce charges. Why the sudden change? Because the investigation found more victims. Not just her ex who lost $8,000, but apparently her old roommate and her freaking cousin too. The money she took from me was partly used to pay back another victim who'd been threatening to go to the police. This wasn't a one-time mistake. It was her MO. They brought me into a meeting room to discuss the plea deal. My ex wouldn't even look at me. Just stared at the table while her mom glared daggers at me the whole time. The deal: she'd plead guilty to felony identity theft and fraud, serve between 2 to 5 years depending on the judge. Prosecutor said realistically with overcrowding and good behavior, probably 14 to 18 months actually served, 5 years probation, and make restitution payments to all victims. The prosecutor asked if I was okay with it. I asked for a few minutes with my lawyer. What if we don't take it? I asked. Then we go to trial. With the evidence we have, she'd likely face 8 to 10 years. But trials are unpredictable, expensive, and this could drag on for literally years. I was so tired. The thought of dragging this out for years more, the stress, the court appearances, the constant reopening of the wound, I just couldn't. One condition, I said finally. I want her to tell me to my face what she did. Not some lawyer speak bullshit. I want her to admit it. They set it up. In a small conference room, with our lawyers present. We sat across from each other, and for the first time, she looked scared? Remorseful? Hard to tell. A full minute went by, with her saying nothing. I'm waiting, I finally said. She took this shaky breath and said, I stole your identity. I took your money. I planned it for months. Her voice cracked. I've been doing this for years. To everyone close to me. I don't know why. I just nodded and walked out. What else was there to say? The plea was entered that afternoon. Judge scheduled sentencing for next month, but revoked her bail, so they took her into custody right there. As they led her away, her mom followed me into the hallway. Are you happy now? She hissed. You've ruined her life. I just said, no, she ruined her own life. And mine. And several others. I'm just trying to rebuild. Not gonna pretend I felt amazing walking out of there. Mostly I felt empty. And fucking exhausted. It's been about 2 weeks since then. Got approved for a tiny studio apartment, had to pay triple deposit because of my credit, but my new boss co-signed after hearing my situation. It's barely bigger than a closet, but at least I have my own space again. My financial situation is still a disaster. The DA says restitution will take years and will probably only recover a fraction of what was taken. Credit score is still in the toilet. Still living paycheck to paycheck. But at least the collections calls have mostly stopped since the case was resolved. Some days I'm angry. Some days I'm just sad. Most days I'm too tired to feel much of anything. Sentencing is next month. I'll update after. Final update. It's been almost a year since my last update. Wasn't planning to post again, but something happened that felt like the end of this chapter, so here we are. Quick recap. After the plea deal, my ex got sentenced to 3 years. With credit for time served and overcrowding, her lawyer said she'd likely serve about 18 months. She's been in for about 11 months now. Financially, I'm surviving. The court ordered restitution, but that's been a joke. I've received exactly 3 payments totaling $1,850. Her parents apparently covered those, then stopped. My lawyer says we can pursue enforcement, but that means more legal fees I can't afford right now. My credit score has crawled up to 620, still bad, but at least I can function. Got denied for an apartment 4 times before finding my current place, which costs way too much for what it is, but landlords can smell desperation. Changed jobs twice. First one let me go during restructuring, right after I had to take 3 days off for court stuff. Current job pays better but has garbage hours. Still living basically paycheck to paycheck, but at least I have an actual bed now instead of an air mattress. Dating? LOL. Trust issues much? Tried a couple dates that went nowhere. Hard to explain to someone why you flinch when they ask what bank you use. Yesterday, I got a letter with the State Corrections Department return address. Almost threw it out thinking it was some official notification about parole hearings or something. Then I realized the handwriting wasn't official, it was hers. Stared at that envelope for a good hour before opening it. Inside was a 3-page handwritten letter. Basically, she's been in therapy in prison. Says she's been diagnosed with some personality disorder, didn't specify which. The therapist has apparently been helping her recognize her pattern of predatory behavior. She wrote that she's not asking for forgiveness or for me to respond. Said she doesn't expect me to believe she's changed, but wanted me to know that what happened wasn't because of anything I did wrong. Said she's always targeted people who trusted her and that it wasn't personal. The last part read, I used to think people who got caught were just stupid. Now I realize I was the stupid one, not for getting caught, but for thinking I was entitled to whatever I wanted. I'm sorry for what I did to you. I don't expect that to mean anything to you, but I needed to say it. Don't know how to feel about it. Part of me thinks it's bullshit, another manipulation tactic as her parole hearing gets closer. Part of me wants to believe people can change. Mostly, I just felt tired reading it. I didn't respond. Put the letter in the box with all the other case documents. Maybe someday I'll feel differently about it, but right now it's just another piece of the puzzle of how the hell I missed all the signs. That's the thing about being betrayed like this. It doesn't just take your money. It takes your ability to trust your own judgment, to believe what's right in front of you. I'm working on getting that back. Slowly. Have a date next week with someone from my apartment building. First told her I was too busy, then finally agreed. Told her upfront that I have relationship baggage without dumping the whole story on her. She said she has her own baggage too. We'll see. My ex's mom still sends the occasional nasty email. Last one said I should try forgiveness, and that holding on to bitterness only hurts yourself. Block that address too. Someone asked me recently if I regret pressing charges. Honestly, sometimes. Not because she didn't deserve it, but because the process nearly broke me too. The financial toll, the emotional drain, the constant reopening of wounds. If I'd known how hard it would be, I might have just tried to walk away and rebuild quietly. But then I remember her laughing when she said, "Good luck proving it was me." I remember the feeling of standing in my empty apartment after she took everything. And I know I couldn't have lived with myself if I'd let her get away with it. My life still isn't great, but it's mine again. I check my credit report every week. I have alerts set up on all my accounts. I'm careful about who I let in, but I'm still here, still rebuilding, and maybe eventually I'll feel normal again. If you're reading this because something similar happened to you, I won't bullshit you. The road back is long and brutal, and sometimes you'll wonder if it's worth it. Document everything. Find at least one person you can trust. Accept help when it's offered. And remember that justice isn't always satisfying, but it's still. After I lost my job, I told my wife I'd find something new. She rolled her eyes and said, "Good luck with that." Her mother nodded. They kicked me out and sent a voicemail. "Don't come back unless you have a paycheck." 3 days later, they were at my door. Got laid off 2 days ago, and my whole life imploded. Still in shock. I'm 32M, been married for 4 years. Lost my job in the latest round of tech layoffs. Not gonna name the company, but they cut 15% of staff, and my entire team got axed. Wasn't performance related. They're outsourcing to save costs. Whatever. So I'm sitting in my car in the parking lot with this stupid cardboard box of desk crap, who even keeps photos at work anymore, and I'm trying to figure out how to tell my wife. We've been struggling financially since we bought our house last year. Her idea, not mine. I wanted to rent longer, but whatever, not important now. Anyway, my mother-in-law has been staying with us for the past 3 months because of flooding in her condo. Was supposed to be 2 weeks, but somehow she's still there. I don't even want to get into all of that. She's never like me. I get home, and they're both sitting at the kitchen table. My wife is scrolling through Instagram, and my mother-in-law is doing some online shopping on her iPad. Normal afternoon. "You're home early," my wife says without looking up. I put my box down. "Yeah, I got laid off today. The whole department got restructured." My wife's head snaps up. My mother-in-law puts her iPad down. "Are you serious right now?" My wife asks like I did this on purpose. I explain about the layoffs, the severance, 8 weeks, not great but something, and that I'll start looking for jobs immediately. I'll find something new. The industry is still hiring, and I've got good connections from the conference last year. That's when my wife rolled her eyes and said, "Good luck with that." Her mother nodded along with this smug look. "What does that mean?" I asked. My mother-in-law jumped in. "It means nobody's hiring right now. My friend's son has been looking for 6 months." I pointed out that her friend's son dropped out of college and was looking for jobs he wasn't qualified for, which was completely different from my situation with 5 years of experience. And you still got fired, my wife said. Laid off, not fired, I corrected her. It wasn't performance-based. They cut the whole department. Everything's always someone else's fault with you, isn't it? She said. From there, it just got worse. According to them, I should have seen this coming, should have worked harder, should have had more savings. My mother-in-law kept bringing up how her ex-husband, my wife's father, had never been laid off once in his 40-year government job. I tried pointing out that government jobs with unions are completely different from private sector tech jobs, but they weren't listening. By evening, I couldn't take it anymore. They were tag-teaming me about how irresponsible I was for not having 6 months of savings. We spent it on the down payment for the house my wife wanted, and how I wasn't the provider my mother-in-law thought I was. I said I needed some air and grabbed my jacket. My wife blocked the door. Where do you think you're going? We're not done talking about this. I told her I needed to clear my head, and we could talk when everyone was calmer. No, she said in this ice-cold voice. If you walk out that door, don't bother coming back without a job. I thought she was just saying stuff in the heat of the moment. You're giving me an ultimatum? Today, when I just lost my job. My mother-in-law stood next to her. Why don't you go stay with one of your friends until you figure yourself out? We don't need your negative energy here. We, like it was their house, not mine. The house I've been paying the mortgage on. Fine, I said. I packed some clothes, my laptop, and left. Neither of them tried to stop me. At midnight, I got a voicemail from my wife. Don't come back unless you have a paycheck. I'm not supporting a jobless husband. I crashed at my friend's place. Still here now. Don't know what happens next. Edit, holy shit, this blew up. Can't respond to everyone, but trying to read comments. A lot of you are asking about the house. It's in both our names, but I've been making the payments. And yes, her mom has been living with us rent-free this whole time. Update. Thanks for all the advice and support on my last post. Sorry I couldn't respond to everyone, but I read all the comments. To the person who said this was fake because no one acts that terrible, I wish you were right. It's been 5 days since I got kicked out. A lot has happened, not all of it bad. First, I filed for unemployment. Process was a nightmare. Whoever designed that website should be fired, but it's done. My former boss has been surprisingly cool about everything, wrote me a killer reference letter, and has been connecting me with people in his network. I've had 2 interviews so far. One was obviously going nowhere. They wanted someone with 7 years of experience for entry-level pay. The other seemed promising, but they're still interviewing candidates for the next 2 weeks. The competitor company some of you mentioned. Yeah, I applied there. Had a first-round interview with HR yesterday. They seemed interested but said they had a bunch more candidates to talk to. So not the immediate job offer some of you were suggesting would happen. You/wife sucks, yes she does, suggested I check the accounts immediately. You were right. Checked our joint account, and some money had been moved out already. Not everything, but enough that I called the bank to make sure no more transfers happen without my approval. They couldn't do much since it's a joint account, but at least I know now. My wife started texting me on day 2. Asterisk, where did you put the account login information? I need to pay the credit card bill. Asterisk. Then a few hours later. Asterisk, are you seriously ignoring me right now? Real mature. Asterisk. I didn't respond at first. Was following the advice from you/don't engage with crazy to give myself some space. Then my mother-in-law texted. Asterisk, my daughter is very stressed because of your selfishness. The least you could do is help with the finances you left her with. Asterisk. Like I chose to get kicked out of my own house. Whatever. After a day of getting bombarded with texts, I finally responded. Asterisk, I'm busy job hunting. Isn't that what you wanted? Asterisk. That set off a whole new round of messages about how I was twisting her words, being petty, etc. Yesterday morning, my wife suddenly realized the mortgage payment was going to be due soon. She called me about 6 times before I answered. The mortgage payment is due next week, she said immediately. No hello, no how are you? I know when it's due, I said. Are you going to pay it? Why would I? You kicked me out, remember? You specifically said not to come back without a paycheck. So you're just not going to pay the mortgage? Are you serious right now? Why would I pay for a house I'm not allowed to live in? She started crying then, saying I was trying to ruin her credit score, that I was being vindictive, etc. I told her I'd pay exactly half, not the 70% I'd been covering before, and she lost it completely. Apparently, she'd been counting on me continuing to pay the full amount while also being kicked out of the house. Make it make sense. Last night around 7, my wife and her mother showed up at my friend's apartment. No idea how they knew where he lived, probably from my location on some app one forgot to turn off. They were both crying, which I'm pretty sure was just for show. My friend answered the door, and they demanded to talk to me. I'm typing this from my friend's bathroom, while they wait in the living room. He offered to kick them out, but I might as well hear what they have to say. My guess is they realized I'm serious about only paying half the bills, and they're panicking. We'll update after this conversation. I'm not planning to move back in, too much has been said that can't be unsaid. But I admit I'm curious to hear what kind of spin they're going to put on this whole situation. Edit people asking where I've been applying, mostly tech project management roles, some adjacent fields too. And yes, I'm documenting everything in case this gets worse. Edit 2. The conversation happened. It was a shit show. We'll post detailed update tomorrow when I have more mental energy. Update 2. Okay, so the conversation with my wife and MIL was exactly the train wreck I expected. Sorry for the delay in updating. Been running around to interviews and trying to get my life in order. You/LegalEagle56 was right. I should have recorded the conversation. Didn't think of it in the moment, but my friend was there for most of it and heard everything. They showed up looking all sad and teary, but I could tell it was practiced. My friend offered them water, which they refused like he'd offered them poison. Can we speak privately? My wife asked, glaring at my friend. I said no, that he was letting me stay there, and had a right to be in his own living room. My MIL got all huffy about family matters, but too bad. The convo went round in circles for like an hour. My wife started with, I'm sorry if what I said came across wrong. I was just shocked about your job and worried. Notice the if, classic non-apology. I reminded her that she literally told me not to come back without a paycheck, and she claimed she didn't mean it literally, and that I should have known that. How exactly was I supposed to know that? By mind reading. My MIL kept saying I was overreacting and being dramatic for taking my wife's words at face value. Make it make sense. After an hour of this garbage, I finally asked why they were really there. My wife looked at her mom, then admitted the mortgage payment, and the utilities, and the credit card bill. There it is. Not, I miss you, or I love you. Just, we need your money. I told them I'd gotten a job offer, which wasn't completely true yet. I had a promising final interview, but no official offer. The way their faces lit up was really something. Like I was suddenly valuable again. That's wonderful, my MIL said, like we hadn't been arguing for an hour. So you can come home now, my wife said, already assuming it was settled. I said no. I wouldn't be coming back to live with people who only valued me for my paycheck and who threw me out when I hit a rough patch. They acted shocked that I didn't want to come back. Like they couldn't comprehend that being told don't come back without a paycheck might have actual consequences. My MIL asked if I was going to let the house go into foreclosure out of spite, and I said I'd continue paying my half of the mortgage, but not a penny more. Not because I'm spiteful, but because I'm not subsidizing people who treat me like an ATM. My wife started crying again, saying I couldn't do this to her, and I pointed out that I wasn't doing anything to her. I was just respecting the boundaries SHE created. They left after that, with vague threats about lawyers that I'm not worried about. Thanks for the advice on that, you/divorce attorney for you. Fast forward to today, I did get the job offer. Not as amazing as some of you were suggesting would happen, but it's a lateral move with slightly better benefits and a clear path to promotion. I start next Monday. I've moved my essential stuff out of the house, while they were both at work, didn't want another confrontation. Got an Airbnb for now, while I look for an apartment. I've been paying exactly half of all shared expenses. My wife keeps calling to complain that it's not fair because I've always paid more, but that arrangement was based on us being partners, not me being her personal bank. My MIL has apparently been telling family members that I abandoned my wife and am financially abusing her by only paying half our expenses. The irony would be funny if it wasn't so annoying. I'm meeting with a lawyer next week to talk about separation options. Not sure if this is heading for divorce yet, but I need to protect myself either way. Thanks again for all the advice. To everyone saying I should have seen the red flags earlier, yeah, you're right. Hindsight and all that. Edit, some people are asking if I think we can work out. Honestly, I don't know. The things that were said can't be unsaid. I'm going to give it time and see how things progress. Edit 2. To clarify timeline, this all happened over about 2 weeks, not 3 days like some people are assuming from my title. The 3 days later referred to when they first showed up at my friend's place. Final update. It's been about 4 months since everything went down, and I think it's time for a final update on this whole situation. First, the job is going well. Not perfect. My new manager is kind of a micromanager, and the commute is longer, but the work is interesting, and the team is decent. The divorce is in process. Yeah, we're going that route. After a lot of back and forth, couples counseling, which was a joke, my wife spent the entire time trying to convince the therapist I was the problem, and several more blow-ups about money, I filed for divorce last month. My wife went through all the stages you'd expect. Anger, how dare you abandon me? Bargaining, I'll go to therapy, I'll make my mom move out. Denial, this is just a rough patch, all couples go through this. Getting her family involved, got calls from her brother, her aunt, even her dad who I've met like twice. Telling everyone who would listen that I left her because I couldn't handle criticism. Showing up at my workplace with lunch, which was weird and uncomfortable. And finally acceptance, sort of, the house is being sold. Market's not great right now, but we should break even or maybe make a small profit. My wife and her mother are apparently looking for an apartment together, which sounds like a recipe for disaster, but not my problem anymore. Speaking of her mother, she has been a complete nightmare throughout this whole process. She actually called my new boss, no idea how she got the number, to complain that I was financially abusing her daughter by only paying half of our shared expenses. Thankfully, my boss just told her it was inappropriate to contact him about personal matters. The thing that really sealed the deal for me was finding out my wife had been telling people I was laid off because of poor performance, not department restructuring. That I was actually fired for incompetence. I had to have my lawyer send a letter telling her to stop defaming me, with statements from my former boss confirming the layoff was part of company-wide cuts. As for me, I'm doing okay, I guess. Some days are better than others. Got a small apartment that's nothing special, but it's mine, and it's quiet. Been trying to reconnect with friends I'd lost touch with during my marriage. Not gonna lie, it's been lonely sometimes. Dating apps are a nightmare that I'm not ready for yet. But for the first time in years, I don't feel like I'm walking on eggshells in my own home. The biggest change has been in how I see myself. For years, I'd internalized this idea that my worth was tied to my income. That being a good husband meant financially supporting my wife, even when she contributed little and criticized constantly. Losing my job and then my marriage broke that connection in my mind. I am not my job. I am not my paycheck. Last week, I ran into my wife at the grocery store. She looked tired. She saw me, and for a moment, I thought she might say something. Instead, she just turned her car around and went down a different aisle. I finished my shopping and left. Didn't feel much of anything about it. Thanks to everyone who offered advice, especially about the legal and financial stuff. You guys probably saved me from making some serious mistakes in the heat of the moment. TLDR, lost my job. Wife and her mom showed their true colors, now getting divorced and rebuilding my life. Edit, holy crap, woke up to so many messages and awards. Thanks everyone. To answer the most common questions. 1. No, I don't think I'll ever get back together with her. Too much damage done. 2. Yes, her mom is still living with her. 3. No, I didn't keep the PlayStation, forgot it in the move and not worth the drama to get it back. After my ex tried to ruin my life with false accusations, I spent nights struggling while she celebrated her victory. 3 months later, after gathering proof, I invited her to a closure dinner and placed a folder on the table. She laughed until she read the first page. Then she went pale. Now she is begging me not to press charges. Throwaway for obvious reasons. My main account has too much personal info, and IDCU might be reading this. I, 28M, met my ex 4 years ago at this monthly trivia thing my buddy hosts at the local bar. We dated for 3 years, lived together for 2. Things weren't perfect, but whose relationship is, right? So about 3 months ago, everything went to hell. We'd been fighting more than usual, stupid stuff mostly. She was getting pissed about my work hours. I do IT support and sometimes get called at weird hours. Looking back, there were probably signs, but I was too dumb to see them. I was fixing her laptop one day, the trackpad was acting up, and a message notification popped up from her coworker. I'm not proud of it, but I clicked. Scrolled up a bit, and yeah, they'd been hooking up for months. When I confronted her, I thought maybe we'd talk out, or she'd deny it or something. Instead, she got this weird calm look and said, if you tell anyone about this, I'll tell everyone you've been emotionally abusing me. I've kept records. Nobody will believe you. I laughed it off. Like who would believe that? We had mutual friends who'd seen us together for years. I was so F***ing wrong. Within like a day, she moved most of her stuff out while I was at work and posted this huge thing on social media about how she finally escaped her abusive relationship. She made up all this crap about how I controlled her, isolated her from friends. Actually, the opposite. I was always trying to get her to maintain her friendships, monitor her location. We both shared locations for safety, etc. The worst part, people believed her. Like instantly. Friends I'd had since college were texting me stuff like, "How could you?" and always knew something was off about you. My phone was blowing up with messages calling me every name in the book. Oh, and she contacted my work. I handle sensitive client data, so this was serious. My boss called me in and said there were concerns about my character, and they were putting me on leave while they investigated. Two of my team members, who I thought were work friends, suddenly couldn't even look at me. I went home to a half-empty apartment and just sat on the floor for like an hour. Not gonna lie, I had a complete breakdown that night. Didn't sleep, couldn't eat. Just kept thinking how she'd managed to destroy my life in less than 48 hours. After a few days of feeling sorry for myself, I realized something. She thought she'd already won. And people who think they've won get sloppy. I called around and found a lawyer who specialized in defamation. Not cheap, like $2,000 just to start, but I was desperate. He told me to document everything, but not to engage with her publicly. Just stay quiet, and let her think she destroyed me. Over the next few weeks, her story kept changing. First, it was emotional abuse. Then it started including vague hints about intimidation and feeling unsafe. She was getting all this attention and sympathy, so why stop? Meanwhile, I was trying to piece together whatever evidence I could. I went through our text history and found tons of messages that contradicted her timeline. I had emails where she talked about how happy she was during times she now claimed were terrifying. Our building has security cameras in the hallways, and I requested footage from days she claimed she was escaping in fear, shows her leaving normally, even waving to neighbors. I managed to get screenshots of some convos where she mentioned the affair to a mutual friend. Found some stuff on our shared cloud account she forgot to remove me from where she was discussing with her coworker what to do if he finds out. Not a smoking gun exactly, but enough to show she was lying. It took almost 2 months, but my work finally concluded their investigation, and I was allowed back. Some people apologized, others still avoided me. Whatever. At the 3-month mark, she'd mostly moved on to posting happy couple pics with her coworker and occasional vague posts about healing from trauma, face with rolling eyes. That's when I decided to act. I texted her asking if we could meet up for dinner, for closure, I said. She seemed surprised but agreed pretty quick. Probably wanted to see how much damage she'd done. We met at this restaurant downtown. Not too fancy, but nice enough. She looked all put together with a new haircut and this smug look on her face. First thing she said, "Wow, you look like crap." I just shrugged. Been a rough few months. "That's what happens," she said, sipping her wine all casual-like. We did the awkward small talk thing for a few minutes. She kept dropping these little digs about how some people need to face consequences for their actions. The whole time, she had this smirk that made me want to flip the table. Instead, I pulled out a folder and set it down between us. "I brought something I thought you might find interesting." She actually laughed. "What's this?" "A sad little apology letter." "Just take a look." She opened it, still with that stupid smile, and pulled out the first page. It was screenshots of her messages with her coworker talking about what to do if I found out about them. Nothing incriminating about false accusations, but enough to show she'd been cheating and lying about the timeline. Her smile sort of froze. She flipped through more pages, screenshots of our happy texts during times she claimed I was controlling her, security footage timestamps showing her leaving normally on days she said she was escaping, statements from 2 mutual friends who'd realized she was lying. It wasn't perfect evidence, nothing like in the movies, but it was enough to show she'd been making stuff up. "Where'd you get these?" she asked, her voice all weird and tight. "Does it matter? I have enough to show you lied. About a lot of things." "So what? Nobody will care." But her hands were shaking a little. "My lawyer says differently. We're filing a defamation suit tomorrow. And given what you sent to my workplace, possibly criminal charges for filing false reports." She didn't break down crying or anything dramatic. She got angry. "You're bluffing. You can't prove anything." "Maybe, maybe not. But your coworker's wife might be interested in these messages. And your boss might wonder about the company ethics policy regarding workplace relationships. And our friends might be curious why your story keeps changing." That hit home. She started talking really fast about how I was misinterpreting everything, and how it wasn't that serious, and how I was overreacting. I just sat there. Finally, I said, "I'm giving you 24 hours to publicly retract everything you said about me. After that, we go to court." Then I got up and left. Didn't storm out or anything dramatic, just paid my half of the bill, and walked out while she was still trying to come up with a response. That night my phone started blowing up with notifications. She'd posted this long thing basically admitting she made everything up because she was hurt and angry after our breakup. She didn't mention the cheating, of course, but she did say she exaggerated and fabricated her claims about me. The messages started rolling in immediately. People apologizing, people asking for my side, people saying they knew something wasn't right about her story. "Where were you all 3 months ago?" Whatever. For the next week, she kept calling and texting, begging me not to go through with legal action. Her co-worker apparently dumped her when all this came out. She was worried about her job. Her reputation was tanked. My lawyer said we definitely had a case for defamation, but would mean months of dealing with her and legal crap. After thinking about it for a few days, I had him draft a settlement agreement. She signs a legal document admitting she lied. Pays my legal fees and some therapy costs, like $3,800 total. Agrees to no contact. Leaves the company. We work for different divisions of the same parent corp. She signed it within like an hour of receiving it. Didn't even try to negotiate. Some of my friends think I let her off too easy. Maybe. But honestly, I just want to move on with my life. It's been about 2 weeks since all this went down. I'm still processing everything. Some friendships are probably permanently damaged. Like, how do you go back to normal after someone instantly believed you were an abuser with zero evidence? I'm in therapy trying to deal with all the trust issues this created. Hard to believe I spent 3 years with someone who could flip a switch and try to destroy me like that. But for the first time since this all started, I actually slept through the night this week. Progress, I guess. Edit. Thanks for all the support. Can't respond to everyone, but I'm reading comments. Update, 2 weeks later. Thanks everyone for the supportive comments on my original post. Didn't expect it to blow up like that. Reading through everything has actually been really helpful, makes me feel less crazy about the whole situation. So it's been 2 weeks since my last post, and things have been weird. My ex paid the money for legal fees and therapy the same day she signed the agreement. She also quit her job like the settlement required. So I guess that's something. What I didn't expect was how fast everyone would turn on her once the truth came out. According to mutual friends, I don't ask, but people tell me anyway, she's basically become a social outcast. Most of her friends dropped her, her family is apparently super disappointed, and even the people who were most vocal about supporting her have gone quiet. Sometimes I almost feel bad for her. Almost. Then I remember those nights I spent staring at the ceiling wondering if I'd ever have a job again, or if anyone would ever believe me. The sympathy dries up pretty quick after that lull. Work has been surprisingly decent. My boss called me in last week for an awkward conversation where he apologized for how they handled everything. Said they should have been more thorough before putting me on leave. Too little too late, but whatever, at least it's something. The social stuff is harder to fix. Some friends have come back with these big apologies about how they should have asked for my side first. I'm trying to be cool about it, but it's tough. Like, you thought I was capable of being an abuser based on a Facebook post? That's not something you just get over with a "my bad." Other friends have just disappeared completely. Too embarrassed to face me probably. And there are still a few who think there must be some truth to what she said. Can't win 'em all, I guess. The weirdest thing happened yesterday. The co-worker she was cheating with reached out and asked to meet. Probably should have said no, but curiosity got the better of me. We met for coffee, and the dude looked rough. Turns out my ex had been feeding him all these stories about how awful I was for months before she made the public accusations. He genuinely thought he was rescuing her from a bad situation. When her post admitting she lied went up, he was completely blindsided. "I knew it was wrong to get involved while you were still together," he said, staring at his coffee, like it held the secrets of the universe. "But I never would have touched her if I knew she was making all that up." He showed me some of the messages she'd sent him, crazy manipulated stories and evidence that made me look like a monster. The screenshots were clearly edited or taken completely out of context. Part of me wanted to be like, "Dude, you were still sleeping with someone else's girlfriend. You're not exactly innocent here." But honestly, I was just tired. Not worth the energy. The most interesting part was when he told me she's already trying to spin a new story with her family and remaining friends. Now, she's saying I forced her to post that retraction by threatening her. Apparently, some people still believe her, but not as many as before. My therapist says this is pretty typical behavior for someone who can't take responsibility for their actions. They just keep creating new narratives until they find one that sticks. Problem is, once you've been caught in a massive lie, people tend to be more skeptical. I've been focusing on myself these past weeks. I'm hanging out more with friends who weren't part of this drama. Started rock climbing again, something I used to love but stopped doing because my ex always complained about how much time it took. There's this job opening in a different department that actually sounds pretty interesting, better hours, and more challenging work. Considering applying. For those asking if I regret not taking her to court, sometimes. Especially at 3 a.m. when I wake up with anxiety. But most of the time, I'm glad to have her out of my life as quickly as possible. The folder with all the evidence is still in my desk drawer though. Just in case. Update, 3 months later. Hey everyone. It's been 3 months since my last update. Wasn't sure if I should post again since part of me just wants to move forward, but after all the support you guys gave me, figured I owed you some closure on this whole mess. Life is pretty normal now? Or new normal anyway. I took that job in the other department, and it's actually been great. The team is solid and nobody looks at me weird because of office gossip. Fresh start and all that. Most of my friendships have settled into whatever they're going to be now. Some got stronger through all this, the people who either believed me from the start or owned up to their mistake. Some friendships are just gone, and I'm okay with that. Learned who my real friends are, I guess. I've been seeing someone new for about a month. Nothing serious yet, just taking it slow. She knows the basics of what happened, felt like I had to explain some of my trust issues, but we don't really talk about it much. She's completely different from my ex, which my therapist says is a good sign. I'm not trying to replace what I lost. As for my ex, I've stuck to the no-contact thing religiously. The bits I hear come from people we both know. She moved to a different city, like 6 weeks ago. Probably for the best TBH. She tried to contest our settlement once, claiming she signed under duress. My lawyer sent one email with some of our evidence attached, and that was the end of that LOL. Someone ran into her at some work conference and said she's telling people there was a misunderstanding that got blown out of proportion. Whatever helps her sleep at night, I guess. The folder of evidence is still around, but I moved it from my desk to a filing cabinet. Don't need to see it every day anymore. This whole experience changed me in ways I'm still figuring out. I'm definitely more careful with who I trust. I've learned people can lie without blinking, and that the truth doesn't always win right away. But I also found out I'm stronger than I thought, and learned who my real friends are. The worst part wasn't even the breakup or the cheating. It was finding out someone I loved could try to destroy me so easily. That's the part one still struggle with sometimes. Anyway, thanks to everyone who commented, sent messages, or just read along. Doubt I'll update again unless something crazy happens, which hopefully it won't. Time to close this chapter for good. Edit. To the people DMing me asking if I'm interested in dating, I appreciate the thought, but I'm not looking to meet anyone from Reddit. Thanks for understanding. I woke up in handcuffs after a night out with my best friend. My phone blew up with my wife screaming, "Don't come home. You're the reason he's dead." I swore I didn't do it. 3 weeks later, the security footage revealed. I, 33M, am writing this from some shitty motel with bedbugs probably and $43.27 to my name. Fuck. I still can't believe this is happening. The past couple days have been absolute hell, and if anyone will even believe this. Friday night, my best friend, been friends since freshman year of college, was like, "Dude, we gotta celebrate my promotion." And I was like, "Whatever, sure, it's Friday, why not?" We've gone drinking like a million times before. Hit up our usual spots downtown. I remember doing shots at this one place, and playing pool at another. I think I had a couple beers, and then some whiskey drink he kept pushing on me. After that, things get seriously fuzzy. Like scary fuzzy. Next thing I fucking know, I'm waking up handcuffed to a bench in a police holding cell with my head absolutely pounding, and no clue how I got there. Some detective comes in and says they found me outside some hotel I've never even been to. Apparently I was super wasted and had what looked like blood on my clothes. And supposedly I was saying weird shit about an accident. I don't remember any of this. Then the detective starts going on about how my best friend was reported missing and his girlfriend got these crazy texts saying I hurt him or something. I was still trying to wrap my head around all this when they finally gave me back my phone. Holy shit. Like 40 plus missed calls and texts from my wife. The latest text she sent made me almost throw up. Don't come home. You're the reason he's dead. They already told me what you did. How could you? I tried calling her back like 5 times, but she wouldn't pick up. When she finally answered, she was screaming so much I couldn't even understand half of what she was saying. Something about knowing the truth, and my best friend's blood being on my hands, and when I tried telling her I had no fucking idea what was happening, she just laughed this weird laugh, and was like, "They have your confession texts, it's over." What the fuck confession texts? I never sent any texts. I can barely remember anything after like my second drink. The detective kept questioning me forever. Apparently at like 2-something in the morning, my best friend's GF got messages from his phone saying we got in some huge fight, and I lost it, and hurt him bad and shit. And then nothing. They found his car by the river with blood on the seat, but no body or anything. Even though I can't remember shit, I know I didn't hurt him. Like, we've literally never even had a real fight in 12 years. Not once. The detective seemed suspicious as hell, but admitted they didn't have much besides the texts and the car. They let me go that afternoon, but took my passport and made it super clear I'm still their main suspect. Great. Tried going home. Nope. Wife changed the locks. Tried calling friends. Everyone's ignoring me. It's like I instantly became radioactive or something. So here I am in this gross motel room I paid for with the cash in my wallet. Got an appointment with some lawyer on Monday, but that's the earliest they could see me. Keep trying my best friend's phone, but it's straight to VM every time. His social media is all gone suddenly. His GF blocked me everywhere. I've been trying so hard to remember anything from that night. The one thing that sticks out is my best friend kept pushing this weird drink on me. You gotta try this, it's amazing. And now that I think about it, he's been acting kind of off lately. Asking about my schedule all the time, and he was weirdly interested in my life insurance stuff. Yeah, I had him as a beneficiary back when we had that business together a couple years ago. And my wife has been super weird lately too. Always on her phone, working late, barely touching me. I thought it was just stress or whatever, but now I'm like, wait? Fuck, I sound like some conspiracy nut. But something is seriously wrong here. I've never been violent, ever, even when I'm wasted. And why would my best friend text his GF that I hurt him instead of calling 911 if he was actually hurt? I gotta figure this shit out before I get charged with something I didn't do. The detective mentioned security footage at the last bar. Gonna try to check that out tomorrow somehow. Can't believe I'm saying this, but I think I've been set up. No idea by who or why, but this is fucked up. Will update if I learn anything. My head is still pounding, and I keep throwing up. Either the worst hangover ever or something else was in those drinks. Edit. To answer some questions, no, I haven't contacted my best friend's family yet. I don't know most of them except his cousin who lives nearby. Might try to reach out to him tomorrow. And yes, I did try going to another friend's place, but he didn't answer the door, though his car was there. Pretty sure my wife got to everyone first with her version of events. Edit 2. A couple people asked why the cops released me if they think I killed someone. They don't have a body, just blood, and not even that much from what I could tell from their questions. Also, they took my clothes for testing, but I'm pretty sure that's going to take a while. Update 1. The pieces are starting to fit, and I don't like the picture. It's been 5 days since my last post. Thanks for all the support and advice and awards and shit. Seriously, it's weird, but having strangers believe me when everyone I know thinks I'm a fucking murderer has kept me from completely losing it. Met with the attorney Monday. $2,675 retainer that maxed out my credit card, and then some. Had to borrow $200 from an old coworker I haven't talked to in years. Lawyer seems decent though. She's filing requests for all the evidence the police have, including the bar footage I mentioned. Told me to document everything, which I've been doing on my crappy motel notepad since my laptop is at home. So here's the fucked up shit I found out. 1. Those confession texts to my best friend's GF? They came from his phone, not mine. My lawyer got the police to confirm this. So someone was using his phone to text about me. Sketchy as hell. 2. Went back to the last bar we were at. Probably shouldn't have, but whatever. Talked to this bartender who remembered us because my best friend was being weirdly insistent about the drinks. Said my best friend kept buying drinks and specifically wouldn't let me go to the bar myself. When I mentioned feeling super dizzy after just a couple drinks, the bartender gave me this look and was like, maybe you should ask your buddy about that. Wouldn't say more, but definitely implied something was up. 3. The blood in my best friend's car isn't even human blood. It's fucking pig blood or something. The detective never mentioned this. My lawyer had to practically threaten them to get this info. 4. Checked our bank account online from the motel's shitty Wi-Fi. My wife took out $14,732 3 days before all this happened. When I texted her about it, she just said, emergency preparations, and then blocked me. WTF? 5. This is the craziest part. My lawyer found out my best friend took out a fucking life insurance policy on me 6 months ago. He made himself the beneficiary. Apparently used some old papers from our business where I'd signed multiple pages and forged my signature on the application. How the fuck did he even do that? So I'm in my motel room trying not to completely freak out when I get a call from a number I don't know. It's my best friend's cousin, only family member he talks to anymore after some falling out with his parents years ago. Cousin is calling to ask if I've heard from my best friend because he missed their lunch plans. Says my best friend had been talking about coming into some serious cash soon and had mentioned traveling abroad. Cousin had no idea about the whole missing/dead thing. Went back to the police with my lawyer to tell them all this. The detective was being a dick about my playing detective, but definitely got interested about the life insurance thing. Then drops this bomb. My wife called the police that morning saying she had to come clean about how she thought I'd been planning to hurt my best friend for weeks. Said she found searches on our computer about poisons and hiding bodies and shit. Total bullshit. Haven't used that computer in forever. Do everything on my phone or work laptop. My lawyer pointed out anyone with access to that computer could have made those searches, like my wife. Then shit gets even weirder. After leaving the station, I get this text from some random number, security footage from hotel. Parking garage camera 2:45 a.m. Ask for Miguel. That's it. No explanation, nothing. So I go to this hotel near where the cops picked me up. Find this guy Miguel who works security. Told him what was going on, and he was like, I shouldn't be doing this, but ended up showing me the footage from that night. Holy fucking shit. The footage shows my best friend at 2:43 a.m., definitely alive, practically carrying my completely wasted ass to his car. I look completely out of it, can barely walk. Then he takes what looks like my phone out of my pocket, messes with it for a couple minutes, texting his GF that BS story about me attacking him, puts it back in my pocket. Then he takes out some little bottle and pours what must be that pig blood on his car seat. Just casually walks away after that. Then the next clip shows him getting into another CAR at 2:51 a.m., and my fucking wife is driving. They full-on make out before driving off. Miguel definitely wasn't supposed to show me this, but he let me record it on my phone. Been paranoid AF about it, so I uploaded it to like 3 different cloud accounts in case something happens to my phone. Haven't confronted my wife. My lawyer says absolutely not to. Let the police handle it. But I'm sitting here wanting to kick our front door down and just scream at her. How the fuck could she do this? Police are looking for my best friend now. His GF seems genuinely shocked by all this. She really thought something happened to him based on those texts. Had no clue about their plan. I moved to a different motel and paid cash. Didn't use my name. These people were trying to frame me for murder. Who knows what they'll do when they realize it's falling apart. Will update when I know more. Still can't wrap my head around the fact that my wife and best friend were plotting to destroy my life. Keep having these moments where I think this has to be some fucked up dream. Edit, a lot of you are asking why the security guy would show me the footage. From what I could tell, he'd already seen it himself and thought something sketchy was happening. When I explained the situation, he seemed genuinely concerned. Not everyone is an asshole, I guess. Edit 2. To answer the most common question. And oh, I didn't know my best friend had me as a life insurance beneficiary. That was from when we started our business together years ago. We both did it as a precaution. I removed him when we closed the business last year, but apparently he never removed me, and then took out a new policy on me without my knowledge. And yes, that's apparently possible with forged documents. Update 2. The House of Cards is collapsing. It's been 2 weeks since my last update, and everything has exploded. I'm writing this from my sister's guest room, where I've been staying since the police cleared me as a suspect. First, the good news. I'm officially no longer being investigated for anything. The security footage from the hotel parking garage was the breakthrough, but it was just the beginning. Here's what happened. After my attorney submitted the footage to the police, they started looking for my best friend and investigating my wife. 3 days later, they found him in a neighboring state, checked into a resort under a false name. My wife wasn't with him, but when they searched his room, they found both their passports, $12,000 in cash, part of the money she withdrew, and printouts of property listings in a non-extradition country. They brought him in for questioning, and apparently, he cracked pretty quickly. According to my attorney, who's been in contact with the prosecutors, he admitted to drugging my drinks that night as part of a scheme to frame me for his death, collect on the life insurance policy he had taken out on me, and run away with my wife and the money. The plan was to make it look like I had murdered him in a drunken rage, dispose of the body, and disappear with my wife, who would play the grieving widow long enough to collect on my life insurance once I was convicted. They figured with the text confession, the blood evidence, and my wife's testimony about my suspicious behavior, I'd be put away for life. What they didn't count on was 1. The hotel having such comprehensive security footage. 2. The bartender remembering them and becoming suspicious. 3. My best friend's cousin reaching out to me. 4. The fact that pig's blood and human blood are easily distinguishable in lab tests. The detective actually apologized to me after my attorney threatened a lawsuit for their mishandling of the investigation. They've recovered most of the money from my best friend's hotel room and have frozen our joint accounts pending the investigation. Now for the confrontation you've all been asking about. 2 days after they arrested my best friend, I finally went home with a police escort to collect my belongings. My wife didn't know I was coming. The police suggested keeping it that way. When we arrived, she was packing suitcases. The look on her face when she saw me walk in with 2 officers, I'll never forget it. Pure shock, followed by this calculated shift to tears and relief. "Oh my God, where have you been? I've been so worried," she cried, actually trying to hug me. The officer stepped between us and explained they had a warrant to search the premises. I just stood there, staring at this stranger, wearing my wife's face. "They found him," was all I said. The color drained from her face. "Found who?" she stammered. "Cut the crap," I said. "They found my best friend. They know everything. The drugging, the fake texts, the life insurance scam. All of it." She tried to deny it at first, then switched to blaming my best friend, claiming he had manipulated her, that she was afraid of him, that she'd been trying to protect me all along. I laughed. Actually laughed. "The security cameras at the hotel show you 2 kissing before driving away together while I was passed out, drugged, and about to be framed for murder. Protect me? You were going to let me rot in prison while you lived it up with him on my life insurance money." That's when she changed tactics completely. Her face hardened, and the real person behind the mask finally showed herself. "You were always holding us back," she hissed. "So concerned with your stupid moral code and your modest little life. He has actual ambition. He knows what he wants and takes it. We had plans, big plans that you and your pathetic middle-class dreams could never understand." The officers exchanged glances. They weren't expecting such an admission. Neither was I, honestly. So ruining my life was worth it for what? Money. She scoffed. "It's not just about money. It's about living, really living, not just existing in this boring suburban prison you call a life." One of the officers interrupted to Mirandize her at that point. She was taken in for questioning and later arrested as a co-conspirator. The aftermath has been surreal. Friends who had abandoned me came crawling back with apologies once the truth got out. My in-laws, who had been telling everyone what a monster I was, suddenly stopped talking altogether when the news broke that their daughter was facing serious criminal charges. The charges against them both are extensive: conspiracy to commit fraud, attempted insurance fraud, filing a false police report, obstruction of justice, and more. My best friend is also facing charges for drugging me. They're both looking at significant prison time. As for me, I'm filing for divorce, obviously, and working with a therapist to process the betrayal. The life insurance company is investigating the fraudulent policy. My attorney is discussing a civil suit against both of them once the criminal proceedings are complete. I've learned that my wife and best friend had been having an affair for at least a year. According to text messages recovered from their phones, they'd been planning this for months, meticulously working out details, gathering information about my routines, researching how to make the perfect frame job. They'd even practiced their respective roles, her as the devastated wife, him as the man who simply vanished. The level of calculation is what gets me. These weren't decisions made in the heat of passion. They coolly, methodically plotted to destroy my life, all while smiling to my face, sharing meals with me, celebrating birthdays and anniversaries. I'm staying with my sister for now. I've returned to work, and my boss has been surprisingly understanding. I'm meeting with a financial advisor next week to see what can be salvaged from this wreckage. Final update to come after the court proceedings. I just want to thank everyone who believed in me when it felt like the whole world didn't. Final update, closure, justice, and moving forward. It's been 8 months since my last update, and I finally feel ready to share how everything concluded. This will be my last post about this chapter of my life. After this, I'm focusing on the future. First, the legal outcomes. My now ex-wife took a plea deal. She's serving 6 years for conspiracy to commit insurance fraud, filing false police reports, and accessory to administering drugs with intent to commit a felony. She could have received up to 15 years, but her cooperation against my ex-best friend reduced her sentence. My ex-best friend wasn't so lucky. He refused a plea deal, thinking his partial confession early on would earn him leniency. It didn't. The jury found him guilty on all counts, including the more serious charges of drugging me and being the mastermind of the murder-frame conspiracy. He got 12 years. The divorce was finalized 4 months ago. Since most of our assets were tied up in the investigation, there wasn't much to split. The house sold, debts were paid, and I walked away with about $30,000. Not much after 5 years of marriage, but at least it was something. Now for the personal aftermath. The hardest part wasn't the legal proceedings or even the financial hit. It was facing their families at the courthouse. My ex-wife's mother had the audacity to approach me and suggest that if I asked for leniency, maybe we could put this unfortunate misunderstanding behind us and start healing as a family. I replied, "Your daughter and my former best friend drugged me, framed me for murder, planned to collect my life insurance, and were going to let me spend my life in prison while they lived off my death. That's not an unfortunate misunderstanding. That's calculated evil." She didn't have a response to that. During my ex-wife's impact statement, she finally revealed the full extent of their relationship and plan. They'd been having an affair for nearly 2 years before the incident. The scheme developed gradually, first as a joke, then as a hypothetical, and finally as a detailed plan. The most chilling part was her admission that they'd actually attempted a trial run 3 months earlier, drugging me at home to see how I'd react to the substance. They presented it as a special cocktail she'd made. I remembered being unusually sick the next day, but had assumed it was food poisoning. They'd been testing their method on me like lab rat. As for my ex-best friend, he never showed remorse. During his sentencing, he actually said we would have given him a better life than the mediocre existence he settled for. He would have lived on through our success. The judge cited his disturbing lack of empathy when issuing the maximum sentence. On a more positive note, some unexpected developments. 1. The life insurance company not only canceled the fraudulent policy, but helped the prosecution build their case. Their fraud investigation team was remarkably thorough. 2. My ex-best friend's girlfriend, who is completely innocent in all this, has become a surprising source of support. We occasionally meet for coffee to process our shared betrayal. She's in therapy too, working through the trauma of thinking her boyfriend had been murdered, only to discover he was planning to abandon her while framing his best friend. 3. My relationship with my sister has deepened significantly. Having a safe place to land when my life imploded made me realize how much I'd neglected that relationship during my marriage. For I've received a promotion at work, partly because my boss was impressed by my professionalism during the crisis, but mostly because I'm actually focusing on my career now instead of trying to maintain a marriage that was apparently a complete sham. 5. I moved to a new city for a fresh start. Living somewhere without the weight of memories has been incredibly healing. The question everyone asks, how did you miss the signs? Looking back, there were red flags, but they were subtle enough to dismiss individually. My wife's increased privacy with her phone. My best friend's sudden interest in my schedule and finances. Their insistence on always including each other in plans. The way they'd sometimes share glances during group conversations. My wife's growing criticism of my lack of ambition. My best friend's comments about wasted potential. In isolation, none of these seemed sinister. Together, they were the breadcrumb trail I should have followed. I've done a lot of therapy to work through the betrayal trauma. The hardest part to accept is that while this was the most traumatic event of my life, for them it was just a business transaction. They were willing to destroy me for money and whatever twisted version of love they shared. My therapist pointed out something important. Their plan failing wasn't luck. It failed because people noticed inconsistencies, because I sought help instead of running, because I trusted my instincts that something wasn't right. In other words, I saved myself. Today, I'm dating again, cautiously. I'm more careful about who I trust, but I refuse to let their betrayal destroy my capacity for connection. I've made new friends in my new city, people who know my story, but don't define me by it. The most unexpected outcome of all this? I'm actually happier now. Without the subtle undermining and criticism from the two people who were supposed to support me, I've rediscovered parts of myself I'd suppressed. I've taken up old hobbies, traveled solo, something my wife always discouraged, and reconnected with childhood friends. So that's it. The complete story of how my wife and best friend conspired to destroy my life, and how I rebuilt it instead. Thank you to everyone who followed this journey and offered support along the way. Your belief in me helped restore my faith in people during a time when it was severely shaken. Life isn't perfect, but it's authentically mine now. And after everything that happened, that's worth more than I can express.